assuming that you guys are all here because you have a narcissist or a toxic person in your life. And at this point, I'm hoping that you guys have a pretty good grasp around the term gaslighting, what it is and how it works and how it tends to go in stages. And if you don't, it's totally fine. You can raise your hand and I can go over the stages if you'd like. Or if not, yes, Kristen.
Can I just ask a question really
Sure.
quick about something totally different?
Yeah.
I'm dealing with court stuff, so I'm trying to get some things together. And what is it? I know there's a name for it. When somebody who has these tendencies will scare you, like say for instance you're driving in the car and they start screaming, or they act like if like you're in a fight or something, or they want to like turn the car, like turn the wheel and go into oncoming traffic, like, or I have go ahead.
Yeah, that they're dangerous scare tactics, of course.
Is there like a specific name for it that they do? Because I have a video of my daughter's father. She was only 4 months at the time, and I recorded it. And I thought that for me, looking back at it when I was going through things, that to me it was emotional abuse, traumatizing for a 4-month-old to like scream in her face and make like a crazy, like googly-eyed face and like shake your head all over the place. For me, I thought that was traumatizing, and she started screaming and going crazy. Is there a specific like term for something that they do when they do that?
It's hard to diagnose that, but I mean, if you have a video of someone trying to take your car and turn it while you're driving into oncoming traffic, that's more than emotional abuse. That's on the verge of physical. I mean, you could have been seriously injured.
Yeah, I don't have a video of that. I just have a video of him. Like I do have a video of him like screaming to try to like scare my son. And like at the time, we thought it was like maybe funny, but now looking back after like learning and doing research on these type of things, this is a pattern that they do.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like
A lot of times we call it, as clinicians, we call it scare tactics, where there are threats, whether they are empty or viable. But the scare tactics can, that's what they do. They scare us. They scare us into staying. They scare us into not telling. They scare us into, maybe covering up for them. There's a lot of different things, but usually, if I'm understanding it correctly, it was a scare tactic. And yes, that's part of emotional abuse, 1,000,000%.
What about for the baby? Like my girlfriend, I sent it to a friend of mine, and she took it as that it was not emotional abuse for the baby. It was more of the lines of him. She thought that he was just trying to be a dad, but just didn't really know how. But for me, looking back and seeing my daughter screaming and crying out of fear, being 4 months old, that's emotional abuse to me, I would think.
Yeah, I would have to make obviously I'd have to see the video, and I'm not an expert in the courts for that type of thing. So I mean, I would make sure whatever you have, you bring to the lawyer's attention, because either way, I mean, when an infant is screaming and hollering because they're scared of you, you don't scream and holler back. I don't know. It's just my opinion.
And then he went and grabbed her like to console her and made it seem like he like felt bad, but like you did that. You shouldn't have done that.
No, I get it. I don't know the exact term for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or if there is one. Thanks. Hey, welcome, James, Jeff, Nick, Dave, Andy, welcome. So, like I said, you guys all should know what gaslighting is, right? If you're in this narcissist apocalypse, survival series. And if you don't know about the stages of it, I'd like to go over them. And if you do, then let me know. If you have any questions, please raise your hands, because sometimes this group gets a little bit large. So gaslighting works in these stages, and a lot of times it can be relatively minor at first, and sometimes we don't even know it. And just like Kristen just said, she might have thought it was being funny. So when someone, for example, deliberately accuses you of trying to undermine them by maybe showing up late to a party, or putting you down for something that was a mistake or was a misunderstanding, and you let it go, that is like minor gaslighting. That's like the beginning steps. So eventually, though, this gaslighting becomes a bigger part of your life. It preoccupies you. and it overwhelms us. And a lot of times it starts to instill fear. Sometimes at this point, I find that people go into some depression, feeling a little hopeless. Maybe, I think another better word is joyless. And how do we get out of this, right? So we're in these stages. So we have these stages of first stage is disbelief. We've talked about this before, where your gaslighter says something that's so outrageous that you are just standing there and you're stunned. Does anyone have an example of that where something was just so outrageous that you still can't believe that it was done or said? Yes, Diana.
I still have a hard time with it. I don't really want to get too much into it, but you know a little bit about it.
Yes, I do.
And I still have a hard time dealing with it and understanding why.
Okay. And again, this is all a process, and everyone's process is different. And it doesn't go away or get better overnight. So, I mean, coming to these groups and coming and sharing is a really great way to start to learn and heal. So in this stage of disbelief, we really want our partners or our person's approval. Stage 2 is where it's defense, right? You feel like you need to defend yourself, and you're trying to search for evidence to prove to them that you didn't do this or you didn't do that, or you are arguing obsessively, and in your head, again, desperately trying to win the approval of this person. And we think about it, the more we try, what happens? Yes, Taylor.
The more respect they have for, or the less respect they have for us?
Typically, yes. Yes, because I have a saying, when we feel low, they feel powerful. So, if you were in stage 2, if you frequently feel, obsessive, maybe sometimes desperate, and maybe you're like giving up hope that anything's ever going to change because this is just the way this person is. Again, still not really understanding what's going on. Stage 3 is your full out depression, right? You are now in a position where you're thinking that they're right. Like maybe it is me. Maybe what they're saying is correct and it is me. So after these stages, yes, Debbie.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to mention on there that I'm so glad there's a lot of younger people on here too that are realizing what they're going through, narcissistic abuse, because my mother was a severe covert narcissist. It was hell growing up. And she would literally set up scenarios and that were going to end in a negative way towards me, and then just get off on it when I failed miserably. Like I'd ask her for advice. That's my mom. She's supposed to give me good advice and, help guide me through life. But no, she would purposely give me bad advice. And then when it failed, she would just absolutely love it. She would just sit back and literally smile. I mean, that's sick.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I just wanted to give an example of that. Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard. I don't want to talk about gaslighting the whole time, but I'd like to start with it. Being gaslit by someone that you've trusted for years is debilitating, right? Mm-hmm. Your trust had a solid foundation, and I find a lot of times people look back and it had been going on for all those years in stage 1, like where you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. I was oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and sometimes we blame ourselves, whether it's for not knowing, whether it's for staying, whether it's for not speaking up. Like there's a ton of different, there's, shame, guilt, and fear are very big things that I hear constantly with narcissists and how we get out.
And that's what I was getting ready to say real quick. I forgot about that. Thanks. I literally believed that I was a POS until I was 49 years old. I literally believed that it was all my fault. It was because of me. Everything that ever went wrong in my family's life, my life, that it was because of me. I was a moron. And to believe that for 49 years, and then to honestly see that your own mother doesn't love you, the one that's supposed to raise you and guide you and love you unconditionally, that really does something to somebody. It's a never ending healing journey for me. And I realize that it's going to always be, and that's okay. But it's a hard thing, and it's a tough thing to accept.
It is. So let me ask you, tell me what steps, and I go around the room, and if I call you, so keep your hearts to yourselves and keep your hands down, because it makes me lose my space when I'm going around the room. If I call your name and you don't want to talk, that's totally fine. But if you do, I appreciate it. My question is, actually, there's a phrase before my question. There's no real solution for the problem of gaslighting. The key to freeing yourself from it is sometimes crippling, but it's easier said than done, because when you realize that you alone are the only person that can define your sense of self, and that you are a worthy person who deserves to be loved regardless of what that person thinks, then you've taken your first step to freedom. So I want to ask you guys, who has taken this first step of freedom?
Okay. Can I answer that real quick?
Sure. Okay.
My whole slogan on all that is, this was years ago, and my mom's passed away now, but that's a whole other story. But my whole slogan on this is, until you stop drinking the poison and get away from the poison, you cannot heal. And I firmly believe that. And I mean, I had to go no contact. I went no contact before I even knew what no contact was. I just couldn't take it anymore. But once you get away from all that toxic poison and the horrible stuff they spew at you, then you can really look at it. It takes a while, but you can really sit back and take a clearer look at it. But when you're in the middle of it, to me, there's no getting better until you get away from it. So that's just my point.
Yeah, absolutely. So my question is, who has taken a step to try and free themselves?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Linnea.
A couple members of my family are narcissists, or like under the spell of a narcissist. I'm finding they are in complete denial, and I'm going either no contact or just basing my relationships on me and the individual. And if another person comes up on the subject, I'll just kind of not even engage.
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, I will just completely ignore it or change the subject, or just not even, like, the other person will come up in conversation and I'm like, oh, anyway, so, Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Linnea. Anyone else want to share? Steps you've taken? Yes, Angie.
So I did about probably 5 or 6 years now. I went, estranged myself from my narcissist mother and family, who all follows her and goes along with everything she does and says, and went no contact. And then 6 months ago, I left my narcissistic husband and went no contact for 6 months now.
How are you feeling?
It was awful. And the family thing was huge relief, and because they were still abusing me, and I'm 59 now. So it was a very, very long time that I was allowing them to still do that. So that was amazing. And I just instantly felt better. And then as far as the husband, that's obviously been very hard, but I would say within the last few weeks, I'm doing much better.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Yes, Drea.
I just had a question. I've went no contact a couple times, but I miserably fail. So I'm just wondering, I hear people say go no contact, but what are the steps to even get there and maintain it?
So I'm going to talk in a moment about a concept called turning off the gas. Have any of you guys ever heard that? It's basically from Dr. Robert Stern. He has a book, and in his book, he has a chapter called Turning Off the Gas. And I found it really interesting because obviously gaslighting gas. So he has a 6-point plan. So 1, we identify the problem. Everyone think in your head what the problem is or who the problem is. 2, have compassion for yourself. And if you don't have compassion for yourself, I have another group about that. But number 3, give yourself permission to make a sacrifice. I'll explain that. 4, get in touch with your feelings. 5, empower yourself. And 6, take one step, just one thing to improve your life. And then take another. So this sounds easy, right? Yep. Everyone identified their problem? Alex, who's your problem?
Me.
You're your own narcissist?
No, but I feel like self-sabotage a lot.
Okay. All right. We'll work with that. Marla.
Oh, that was such a great answer. I was really thinking that she nailed it. Yeah, so yeah, I've been accused of running away for multiple people for several times over my lifetime. And yeah, I have apparently I still live absently in some family members' circles. Like I haven't seen them in years, and I still have a presence because of stories and horrible things thrown around. It's crazy. It's a crazy life, but I agree with everybody. It's awful. It's awful to have that and not be able to do anything about it. Yeah.
What about you, Drea?
What one were we on?
This is identifying the problem.
It would be definitely my ex. Or yeah, it would be.
Okay. What about you, Anne? Craig.
My wife.
Okay. Drea, did I get you?
Yes.
Okay. Debbie. You might be on mute, Debbie. What about Taylor?
My lack of boundaries with my mom and my ex and my daughter's father.
Okay. James,
Sorry.
what about you? What about you, James? What about you, Jeff? Hi, Jeff.
Hello. I mean, initially, I would just say that they were the problem, and then now I guess for me, it's just about rebuilding. So I guess I'm not answering your question very well, but for me, the problem kind of resides in me at this point. But anyway, that's all I can think.
Okay, no worries. You guys keep giving hearts. I don't know where I am. Hold on a second. Nick.
If I understand your question correctly, which I am very unsure about, I don't really have any more people in my life that are problems, just like the ghost memories.
Okay.
And like I guess the loneliness of having to rebuild.
Okay. And that's a real thing. That's a real thing, the loneliness. Thanks. Dave? Dave, you with me?
Hello?
I can't hear you very well, Dave.
It's because the app is acting up on me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I had to restart. So we're still talking about who's the problem and what we're doing about it.
We're identifying the problem, yeah.
My narc ex, and I've gone almost completely no contact with her.
Good. And I'm saying good because I know your backstory. Brittany.
You do.
For me, I think, well, I know my narcissist is the problem, but I also have to admit that I also play a part in it as well because of my codependency and the trauma bond and things like that.
Okay. All right. Rebecca. Missy. Chad.
Oh, that would be my my ex-husband of 1 year, and after 40 years of marriage, and I didn't even know about a trauma bond, but just the back and forth of trying to put together something and without any trust.
Okay. Okay. Chad.
I'm sorry, I came in a little late. I missed the question, but I'd love to answer it.
Identifying the problem in order to start healing.
My ex-wife.
Okay. Lily. He may be working. Isha. James, yes?
Oh, go ahead, Isha.
Hi, sorry. I didn't hear the question. I came in the room late.
We are attempting to turn off the gas so that we can start to move forward and heal. And the first step is identifying the problem.
Oh, okay. Like who in our lives was the problem?
It could be a who, it could be a what, it could be a where.
Oh. Okay, for me, it's my dad and my sister.
Okay.
And maybe me too, like my contribution.
Yeah. Okay. James.
When you called on me, the app froze, so I just restart. But I think for me, it was my ex-wife, but she made me feel like I was the problem. So now I sort of like thinking half and half. Like,
okay.
It was always like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, I want to applaud you, number one, for I heard a lot of you talking about your own role in this, because it is my own personal theory through years of research and through being a clinician, is that we, no matter what, we have to have accountability, because that is just our part in any relationship, right? So those things and that part is really, really important. So absolutely identifying the problem and including yourself in there, even if it's just a little bit, is huge, and it's going to start helping you heal. They say the second part is to have self-compassion. And last group, I talked about self-compassion. Does anyone remember what self-compassion means?
Adele said it best, to go easy on yourself.
To go easy on yourself. Okay. I don't listen to much Adele, but so my personal definition, Brittany, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, kind of like self-love a little bit, maybe just, being easy on yourself, kind of like what he said as well.
Yep. So my definition of having compassion for yourself is really self-love, right? Give yourself some grace. Give yourself permission to cry. Give yourself permission to be angry. Stop being so hard on ourselves all the time, expecting that we have to get through this, and expecting that this is something that, if I don't get through, I'm never going to love again, or I'm never going to, trust somebody again. That's part of self-compassion. Number 3, they say, is giving yourself permission to make a sacrifice. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but for me, that's the sacrifice of to stay or to go, or to have no contact or contact, or to try to talk it out or not talk it out. Talking out usually doesn't happen with these kind of relationships. So I usually put it with no contact or stay or go. Number 4 is getting in touch with your feelings, which is very much like number 2. Now, when I talk about feelings, I'm talking about the E word. The E word is emotions. a lot of times we suppress our emotions because we just don't have time. We don't feel like crying right now. We don't want to talk about it anymore. We're sick of talking about it. Other people are sick of talking about it. But when that happens and we don't just take a moment and explore that emotion, who, what, when, where, why made me feel this way? The 5 W's. It becomes like a pile, right? In therapy, we call it anchoring. It's like one emotion on top of another emotion on top of another emotion. These are suppressed emotions. And what do anchors do? Anchors from like a boat. What does an anchor do?
Keep it down. Hold something down.
Yeah, it keeps us from moving, right? So it's important that we are really being able to be in touch with our feelings. So I always tell people it just takes, a couple seconds. And I know that we're all very busy, but if you are feeling intense anger for some reason and you're like, oh, I just don't have time to deal with this right now, stop what you're doing. I often tell people to remove themselves from the situation or from whatever position they're in. Just remove yourself. It takes seconds. Get up and go to another room. Excuse yourself, go to the restroom. And if you can, get the coldest glass of water you can. And the reason I asked you to do this is because you are now going to use distress. You're going to distract yourself, right? But you're still allowing yourself to feel that emotion, express it. But after you do this and you acknowledge that the anger is there, you're going to concentrate on this feeling of cold going into your body. And sometimes it helps to be able to not keep it there. Because I want you to acknowledge it. I don't want you to keep it there. 2 different things. So number 5, they say empower yourself. And I find that this step is a little hard for people who feel that they've been devalued. So I often say to make sure you go to a self-help class. Make sure you go to a class like I just had earlier, which is building self-confidence and self-love and learning about the concept of self. Because we don't feel empowered unless we have a good sense of self. And then number 6 is actually my favorite. I always say the smallest changes make the biggest difference. And in most of my groups, I tell people to change one thing this week. And his step in here is to take one step and then take another step. So this is a way that we can start getting ourselves away from that and start healing ourselves because we're feeling better. Any questions about this? Yes, Debbie.
I just wanted to talk real quick about the accountability for ourselves, being accountable for our part.
Yes,
I got to talk about it before I explode. Be real careful with that one, because I don't know how you guys are, but in my dealings with a narcissist is that I was beat down so bad into believing that I was a POS, a real piece of crap. And so your self-esteem is already down really far. Don't beat yourself up over this. Like I said, it was like I was, I didn't ask for this. It was like I was held hostage. I was a child. I couldn't go anywhere. I had to basically take the abuse.
I want to interrupt you because I feel like you misunderstood. Accountability doesn't mean that you have responsibility. It means that there was a part of you that had relationship there. When I say accountability, there is never a way that I ever mean that you are responsible for what happened, especially if you're a child, especially it doesn't matter who.
Okay, I feel better.
Yeah, no, that's not what accountability means.
No, well, I know that's not what it means, but I was just okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Anyone else have any questions? So when we start to quote unquote turn off this gas, you may start having some more questions for yourself. What am I going to do? Am I making the right choice? Who's had those thoughts? And what did your inner self say to you? Jonathan.
Actually, it just said that it was confirming that I'm doing what I need to do for me.
Okay. Yeah. And you felt pretty confident in that?
Well, it depends on the moment. Okay. I think emotions are going to come up. And if we're willing to deal with our emotions, whatever they are, That's all we're responsible for is our own stuff. And it's difficult at times, but reaching out to talk to somebody, either someone here or a confident person, a confidant, counselor, so is important. And so,
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Greg.
My inner self kept asking me, what about the kids? That's why I stayed so long.
So I always have a question when people come to me for marriage and family therapy, and they tell me that they're only staying for the kids. And I always have a question to refer back. Do you think it's better for your children to see happy parents or parents who are always arguing and parents who don't get along?
Well, happy parents, hands down. But we're not happy. We wouldn't even talk.
Exactly. So what do you think is healthier for the children?
Happy parents.
Yeah. And it's so hard, right? Because each parent loves their children and they want the best for their children. And that's a really hard thing to wrap your head around.
Right. But the thing is, so narcissism starts as a child in the home. And so they're already learning, my 15-year-old she's pretty cruel and she doesn't have a problem telling me anything, with my wife sitting right there, so they're already learning some of the tactics and traits, of a narcissist, because my wife is a grandiose, covert narcissist. Her brother is, and I think your mother is too. So
let me just say real quick that narcissism doesn't start in every home. Narcissism will be learned in a home with a narcissistic person. The children do pick up tendencies. They get to see what they can get away with.
Right.
And, without being corrected and by having watched this, they think that it's okay. So
right.
we have generational trauma that happens because let's just say you watched your mom and dad do this and you thought that was normal. You get into this marriage with your wife and this happens and you're like, ugh, this is a little bit worse than what I saw with my mom and dad, but maybe it's normal. And your children see this also. So until someone breaks this pattern, it does become a pattern, and it will consistently be a pattern. It's a really difficult thing to try and explain to a child who is going to say what they want to say to get what they want.
Well, yeah, right. I had some pretty bad patterns. Not really. I had some bad patterns, but I love my kids and I never did anything to hurt them.
Of course.
I had a really, really good relationship with my children before all this. And now, still, even when I talk to them on the phone, I can just tell they're just not really interested, really. And they won't talk about anything. And I have questions,
Yeah.
And they don't want to talk about it.
I hope as part of your family planning or parenting plan that you put in therapy in there. So it is, because it will be important for the children to relearn certain things.
Yeah. They're in therapy right now, but, and of course it's all my fault because they're in therapy.
Right.
But Sarah's in therapy too. And she really needs it. I'm just worried about my kids being narcissists, like her, and the rest of her family.
I understand, but I will tell you that if they're being truthful with their therapists, the therapists are trained to pick certain things out to be able to identify and try and help, especially since they're young.
Right.
Hey, I want to welcome Jamie, Claudia, Carla, Jessica, Chelsea. Welcome. So I hope that answered someone's. I can't remember who had the question about how to start breaking, how to start going no contact. But again, there are all these stages. And I feel like there's one thing that people don't realize is that they have to be ready. It can't be flip-floppy because the narcissist will take more advantage of you. It has to be something that you're ready for. And I always talk about the stages of change and being ready to make that change. And it's sort of like, pressing the go button. But they can't flip-flop back and forth. So they have, the stage 1, which is being aware that you are in a narcissistic abusive relationship. Stage 2 is understanding that this behavior is abusive. There's no way around this. 3 is accepting that this behavior is destructive for you, for your children, for your family, for your friendships. Stage 4 is reawakening, all the eroded aspects of yourself. So they're sort of like the same thing about turning off the gas. But if you're noticing a concept here, it's the rebuilding of self. So let me ask you guys, what part of yourself do you need the most work with? Brittany.
For me, it's just that pull, that push and pull. It's just like I know what I need to do, but then it's just like something is saying, but wait, maybe we can try it a different way. And I think it's because I'm pregnant too. So that really plays a big part in it too, and especially with my emotions and things like that. But it's just like I know what to do, but I don't know. It's just I don't know. I guess it's that trauma bond and that codependency thing.
And it could be because you're having a child and where are you going to live and how are you going to be supported. There's probably a lot of things at play. But, I always tell people when you're ready, you're ready. So you have to have, I always ask people what your boundary is. Where is your breaking point? When is enough truly enough? And it's different for everybody.
Well, we haven't been, I've known him for quite a couple of years from now, but like we haven't really been like in a relationship for that long. So I guess I guess I'm not at my breaking point. I know it sounds weird to say that, but I don't think I'm at my breaking point yet. And and that's why I come on here to try to hear other people's stories and to get advice and, because I know it's something going on. I'm just trying to get down to the bottom of it to figure out exactly what it is that I can do.
Okay. Thank you. Drea.
So for me, it would definitely be, I obviously lack self-love. Like there's no way that I allow this and I love myself. If I feel like if I like as capable, I know I'm capable of love because of what I poured out to him. So if I could just pour that into myself, and then I would realize that maybe I don't need him. I definitely need to fix my love for myself. It's non-existent.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? Yes, Linnea.
I'm focusing on a support system, my chosen family, and rebuilding that.
Okay.
Because I found I cannot rely on my regular family.
Okay. Anyone else like to share before I go on? So we have these 5 stages, but they're really difficult to wrap our heads around because there's always this, like I said, lure and trap, right? They're going to take off a mask, tell you that they're going to change. And I ask you guys to always pay attention to your cycle. If you are paying attention and you're looking at a clock and 12 o'clock is up top and everything is well and good and your clock's moving around to 12:15 and you get to 12:15, but you start to notice some things that you don't like. But, they've been on their best behavior. And so I'm going to let that slide. You get down to 12:30 and it starts to happen a little bit more often. And maybe you start to pull away. You're at 12:45 and you're kind of sick and tired of it. And maybe you stand up for yourself. Maybe you try to have a talk, right? And what happens at 12:45? The promises of change, the promises, the apologies, and then you're right back at your 12 o'clock cycle again. Now, some people's cycles are a week, some people's cycles are 3 weeks, some people's cycles are a month. But I want you guys to listen to this part carefully. People don't usually break up with a narcissist. They kind of have to escape. That's why going no contact is usually the best suggestion, because this person doesn't want to let you go. In the beginning of your relationship, if you think about it, think about how quickly there was intense love or very early on intimacy. Think about, they use the word love bombing. That has so many different terms. People can have, you could have presents, you could have lavish dinners, you could, go to fancy vacations, a whole bunch of different things. And sometimes these things are really great, but sometimes they're just over the top. So think about this smoke screen that's been put over us, right? We're not really seeing all the true things. The narcissist usually wears a mask that we can't see. So getting out of this situation is usually a little tricky, but going no contact is usually one of the first things that we can do, because that inevitable phase of a relationship where you've been idolized, and we constantly want that feeling back most of the time if it's with an intimate partner. With parents, it's a little bit different. Children usually are very aware of the abuse, and it's not idolized. So, at that beginning, we may not really call it what it is, but it is abuse. And then after this, there's that stage of denial. And I tell people that you have to go through these stages just like you do with grief. So as I say in grief groups, grief is like the death, like I say in divorce groups, it's like the death of a marriage. And you can think about this in the same way as the death of a relationship, the death of a relationship with a parent, with a coworker, with a sibling, with an intimate person. There are stages of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has 5, but some people have 9. They're all different, and they don't have to be in any particular order. You just have to allow yourself to go through them. I know a lot of times people, when they're trying to get out of a relationship or they're breaking up, it's all, hey, I'm just going to do this and everything's going to be fine. I'm going to move on. It doesn't really happen that easy, because a lot of times this behavior is very abusive. And understanding that it is abusive and there is going to be a downtime that you're going to have to take with yourself to be able to properly heal from this. Yes, Jessica.
And you said it correctly. In a nutshell, my situation, I was with my eyes in the fog for 30-year relationship, 25 years married, 3 adult kids now. And when I decided enough was enough, you said it right. You got to be prepared. You are not playing checkers with this other person. You are playing chess, and it's not perfect. You're still going to have to go through the fire. This person pretty much tried to sabotage everything I have. Yo, you can't get a place. He fucked up my credit. Oh, you can't get your own car. I'm taking my own car and truck back. I mean, it was just like, what the hell? Then it came to time to move out. We have a 3-car brand new garage to a house, and he takes every tool out the garage. Mind you, it's one of those setups with all the, the guy cabinets and this and that. He left me nothing. And then when it came time to move, it turned out for the entire year, once he said, oh yeah, we can separate this, that, he made sure that he took his name off of everything and stopped paying the utilities. So guess who got left with all of that? They're grimy, they are greasy, they do not agree. As much as I had to completely cut off all communication, no more text messages, no more emails. It was constant abuse, constantly putting me down, constantly making me feel even worse. And it's like, I'm in now my new environment. I'm not going to allow this person to continue doing that to me. So I now have a second job that I'm saving money on the weekends. So in a couple months, I can file this divorce. I want nothing to do with him. I'm not fighting for anything. I just want to be free. So for those of you who are in that, I'm telling you, start saving, start thinking ahead, start thinking of how you're doing it, because your time will come.
Thank you for sharing that so eloquently. Appreciate it. Dave, yes.
If I may say the same thing a bit more bluntly, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, because they will not fight fair. I did what I needed to do, and to have what I believe was honorable, to be honorable in divorcing my ex, and everything that I did that was kind, that was loving, that was to make sure that she was well cared for, and in launching herself into the next phase of her life, everything she and her attorney have turned around and weaponized against me in court. I was overpaying on purpose, and I told her I did that to make sure that she was well cared for. That got weaponized. Of course, she didn't bother to include the part about me telling her that I was making sure that she was well cared for. Do not bring a knife to a gunfight. It will be a gunfight. I'm sorry to say it. At least that's been my experience, and that's been the experience of a lot of us here.
Thank you, Dave. So one of the things that holds us back from going beyond is this concept of isolation. And I don't know exactly how many of you this has happened to, but toxic and narcissistic people like to isolate us. They do it for several reasons. They do it so that, no one can find them out. They do it because they want you to themselves. They do it because they don't want you to leave. But what happens is we lose our support system. So I mentioned a little while ago, the first thing I always ask people when they come to me in my private practice is about accountability, not meaning blame, not meaning responsibility, just accountable. Just tell me, just acknowledge that you were there and that this was happening to you. The second question I ask is, tell me about your support system. And 9 out of 10 people that come to me tell me that they have no one. So when we are thinking about leaving, or we are thinking about going no contact, or thinking about asking people, for help, we have to have them, right? We have to be able to have somebody there who can help us. And I don't mean that you need to have a ride or die person. You need to have someone who's able to, 1, listen, and 2, just be there. They don't need to understand this problem because they probably don't. And you need to have them. So it has to be more than this group. It has to be more than any of these groups. It has to be a tangible human being, or something that you like. I think it was Brittany that was saying she was saving up to do it on her own. Sometimes we become so paralyzed because we are fighting with these 2 belief systems. What am I doing? I shouldn't be doing this. This person loves me. Well, how does a person that loves me do all these things? And how am I still here? We have, sometimes we get this concept of learned helplessness only because we haven't been allowed to do anything because of the isolation. So this is like one of our fight or flight responses to being unable to act effectively to one way or another in the relationship. So either to leave it or to be treated in the manner that we wish to be treated is really, really difficult because, 1, a narcissist will never admit that they've done anything wrong unless you are countering them. Then they say, "Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll change." But in their brain, they're above everything. They haven't done anything wrong. Usually it's you. And that's why it comes down to either stay or go. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, James.
So you talked about having a support group system, and I don't know the young lady's name who said she sorry, my labradoodles won't love to. Wait, get down. I don't know the young lady's name who said she's saving up to move, but it was my coworkers who sort of helped, or who helped, who was at sort of like the support group, because I was isolated from everybody too. I had to delete all my friends, couldn't talk to, nobody unless they were married, and then I had to talk to them around her on speakerphone type of deal. So I just chose not to. I just chose to not make it a problem.
I understand.
But yeah, your coworkers could some of your coworkers could be like your support system too.
They can be. Like Dave said that his church group paid for his rent for the month. So, I mean, I do know a lot of people are very spiritual, and there are places in the church that can help with food, with shelter, with things like that. And that can also be your support system. But we have to be able to have somebody so that we have something to rely on. You know, we fear the unknown because we fear because of the unknown future or what life is going to look like for us. Yes, Debbie.
I just wanted to say real quick that you are very good. You're so knowledgeable in this, and I think you're like the first person that I've met that really knows so much about this. I've studied about it when I first figured out what I was dealing with, and I wanted to know, you know, what was the family made of. And I have learned a lot today from you and more than I've learned, I think, in the years. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Guys, I do have a group right after this, but for those of you who are new to me, I do something called the Personal Bill of Rights. And I like to talk about it when we're talking about thriving and trying to find ourselves, because a lot of us don't know what we are entitled to because maybe we have lost so much touch with ourselves. So I'll just read it. I'll read it to you. It's not too long. I have the right to express all my feelings, positive or negative. I have the right to ask for what I want. I have the right to determine my own priorities. I have the right to not be responsible for other people's behaviors, actions, feelings, or problems. I have the right to say no to others without feeling guilty. I have the right to take my time to slow down and think. I have the right to be uniquely myself or my own person. I have the right to say, I don't know. I have the right to say, I don't care. I have the right to make decisions based on my feelings. I have the right to be in a non-abusive relationship. Doesn't matter whether it's intimate, sibling, parental, doesn't matter. I have the right to make mistakes. I have the right to be safe. I have the right to put myself first. I have the right to dignity and respect. I have the right to love and be loved. I have the right to be human, which means I'm not perfect. That's where self-love comes in, people. I have the right to my own personal space and time. I have the right to privacy. I have the right to be angry and protest if I am treated unfairly. I have the right to earn and control my own money. I have the right to grow and change, including changing my mind. I have the right to decide if and when I choose to forgive myself or other people. And lastly, I have the right to be happy. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being here and being at Circles. I appreciate this. If you choose to follow me, you will have access to all of the groups I do. I think I do 13 a week. Please leave me your feedback. I always do love to read it. And most importantly, thanks for showing up for yourself. It is important that you're here. It's important that you're learning. It's important that you're supporting other people who are going through the same thing as you. I do have another class in 5 minutes, and it is about self-esteem building. I am going to talk about the concept of self. If you'd like to join me, I would love to see you. If not, I am back again tomorrow. As always, have a great, great night, and make sure you follow me and leave me your feedback. And if you want to DM me, you have to do it in the DM, not the chat. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.